Alright guys, so first things first, let's start off with some terminology. There's a lot of vocabulary, there's a lot of terms, there's a lot of things you should know when getting into stocks. There's a lot of things you should know prior to even considering what stocks to buy. Throughout the course of the next couple of videos you'll watch, I'll be very heavy on terminology and different terms I'd use. It's very important that you guys understand what I'm saying so it doesn't sound like a bunch of horse shit when I'm talking to you guys. Alright? You have to be very mentally prepared for all this terminology that I'm about to dump onto you, and you have to know it. It's got to be instant in your head. If I ask you about it, you have to know the difference. You have to know what it means. So let's start off. Terms. First off, there's things such as a stock. Now, quick disclaimer, this video is going to be very, very long. This video is going to be very, very drawn out. If you already have a very good terminology, very good vocabulary over the stock market, you're fine. You probably don't even have to watch this video. But I recommend getting a quick touch-up. So what is a stock? Well, a stock is simply... Anyways, a stock is a share of a company. For example, Apple. Let's say you go and you say you want to own a share of Apple. You own, technically, a small percentage of Apple. You are responsible for a very small percentage of Apple. You own a share. You own a percentage of Apple. Although there's millions and billions of shares in the market, if you own a share of Apple, you technically have a small percentage of a company. Sometimes that can even warrant dividends. The company will pay out dividends to its shareholders. And that's another terminology we're going to go on to. So what is a stock? It's a share of a company. Wow, my spelling is super bad. I'm super sorry. It's a share of a company. What is a share? A percentage of the company. Now, a company is composed of 100%, right? So if you own 100% of the company, you're the only person that is responsible for that company. Now, let's say you decide to sell 25% of your company to your friend named Chad. Well, Chad owns 25% of the company, which could mean whatever. Now, each share or each stock of the company is, let's say, 1% of the company. You have one share of the company, one stock. It's equal to 1% of the whole value of the company. So if your company's worth 100, if you have 100% of the company, you can sell 25% of it, which is 25 shares of your company, to Chad. Now, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, these companies that you can buy shares of, there's millions and billions of shares. So you're not really owning a whole percent of the company unless you buy so many shares. Recently, Elon Musk said he wanted to buy Twitter. This is an example. He said he wanted to buy Twitter. Now, how was he going to buy Twitter when Twitter has a stock? There's a bunch of people who own Twitter. Well, Elon Musk offered to buy every share of Twitter for $59.42, right? Or, yeah, I think it was $59.42. So he offered to buy each share at that price, and he was going to buy every share to give him 100% of the company. That is kind of the example I want to give you guys. That's relative news as of recording this video. But anyways, I'll move on. So that you know what a stock is, you know what a share is. So what is an ETF? This is very important. An ETF is a stock that's composed of multiple stocks. Now, what do I mean by this? Let me correct my spelling. I'm pretty sure that's going to annoy a lot of you guys. So an ETF is a stock that's composed of multiple stocks. Kind of crazy. For example, most of you might be familiar with the S&P 500. Well, there's a stock, in quotation mark, called SPY, right? And that is the S&P 500 ETF stock. Now, that SPY is okay, let me rephrase this. You put in $1 into the SPY, and what the ETF does is it gets your dollar and pre-diversifies it. Basically meaning that dollar technically holds a share of Apple, a share of Twitter, a share of Microsoft, a share of 500 different stocks. Now, obviously, if you're only investing $1, you're getting a very, very, very small share of each of those companies. You know, so that's kind of like what an ETF is. That is an example of the ETF and the S&P 500. There's a lot of different ETFs. There's QQQ. That's a good ETF. I'm trying to think of a bunch of ETFs, but there's a lot of ETFs. There's ETF growth stocks. There's ETF stocks that are against the market. So basically when the market, let's say the market's going down. When people refer to the market, they usually refer to the S&P 500. The market's going down. The NASDAQ's going down. Well, that means the ETF is losing money. Well, there are ETFs that are against the market. So as the market goes down, that ETF actually increases. So there's a bunch of different ETFs. ETFs are a composition of multiple stocks, just like I said, multiple stocks. You can really play around with a lot of ETFs. There's a lot of volume in them. People put their 401ks usually into ETFs, but that's kind of the different things. Now, another thing you need to know of is called sectors. Now, what do I mean by sectors? Well, you have sectors such as, metals, commodities. Wow, I can't spell. Commodities. You have banking. You have social media. You have tech. You also have sectors such as oil. The oil and gas sectors. There's a bunch of different sectors that can influence the market. One day metals can be up. The next day banking can be up. Banking a sector. What stocks are within the banking sector? Well, you have Bank of America, which is BAC. You have PayPal, which is PAPPL. You also have Community Credit, or Capital One, which is C. You have things such as Coinbase. I don't know the stock ticker for that, but you have a bunch of these stocks that fall under the banking sector. You have, under metals, you have gold, you have silver, you have palladium, you have a bunch of other stuff, etc. For commodities, you have things such as Nike. What is the commodity? Walmart. Walmart is a store that's usually involved in a lot of commodities. You have things like that. Nike, Walmart. Can't think of any more off the top of my head. Social media. What do you have? You have Facebook. Or well, I think it's called Meta now. You have Meta. You have Snap. There's one more. ZipRecruiter. That's one. But I don't think that's as big. In tech, you have Apple. You have, let's see, in tech, you have Apple, you have Microsoft. I think Meta, Facebook, is also considered a tech sector stock. Depends on who you talk to, depends on who you ask. That's also very influenced. You have stocks like Meta. Who else is in tech? Nvidia. You have a bunch of different sectors, and these sectors can overlap each other. You know, ETFs overlap each other. There's a ETF called the Meta ETF, or Metaverse ETF, which is composed of obviously Meta, Nvidia, Roblox, and I think that's about it. Meta, Nvidia, Roblox, basically all those three stocks, and it diversifies it to you. It diversifies your money into all three of those stocks for you. You know, this is kind of the example. Oil and gas, you have stocks such as like ExxonMobil, a bunch of other ones that I can't think of the top of my head, but those are sectors. Those are basically categories of stocks. So how does it work? You have ETFs, or well, no, you have a sector, which can be broken down into ETFs. ETFs hold stocks, and those stocks are a percent of the company. I hope you guys kind of see the trend here. You know, all these are within a percent of the company is a stock. Stocks are in ETFs. ETFs usually apply to a certain sector of the market. Great. Now that we know basic terminology and we know basic kind of what everything means, what else should we know? Well, when buying a stock, there's kind of multiple ways to buy one. There is buying at the bid, and there's buying at the ask. There is buying at the market, and I think that's about it. Now, a bid is the highest price someone is willing to pay for a stock, right? Now, buying at the ask is the lowest price someone is willing to sell the stock. Buying at the market is the average between the bid and the ask. This can get kind of confusing, and a lot of these overlap. Basically, how it works is, let's say Jimmy has one share of Tesla. Tesla is worth $1,000. I think at the time of recording, Tesla's worth like $700, but we're not going to get into that. Jimmy has a share of Tesla, and he's asking the market value, the price that is advertised. So if you look on your broker and it says Tesla, $700, you know, Jimmy is willing to buy a stock of Tesla for $699, right? Now someone is willing to sell Jimmy their share of Tesla for $701, right? So there's a thing called a spread, and a spread is the price between bid and the ask. Spread is the price between bid and ask. How's it work? Jimmy wants to buy the stock for $699. Someone is willing to sell Jimmy the stock at $701. The market is valuing the stock at $700, right? So this is the bid. This is the ask over here. Let me center this up. This is the bid, this is the ask, and this right here is the market price. Now let me go ahead and fix this up for you guys. Make it look a little bit better. So Jimmy wants to buy the stock for $6.99. Someone is willing to sell Jimmy the stock for $701. So the stock is priced at $700. Now there can be multiple bids, there can be multiple asks, but there's only one market price, and it's the average between the highest bid and the lowest ask. Now there's a thing called a spread, which is the price between the bid and the ask. And what I meant to say, the price difference between the bid and the ask. The spread is $2, right? From $6.99 to $701, that's $2 different. Because 701 subtract $6.99, that's $2. That's a spread. The spread between those two stocks is $2. Now, sometimes that can be very important. For example, if you're going to think about this, is very important. If you kind of want to get into a stock very, very fast, then you have to wait. Then you have to buy the stock at the ask because someone's already selling it at that price. Now, if you want to get in at a lower cost, you can place a bid. That means you're telling someone who has a share of Tesla, hey, I'll give you $699 for it, and you got to take it. $699, and you give me your share of Tesla. That person has to consider selling their share for $699, which is below the market price, but it's the highest someone's willing to pay for it right now. Keep that in mind, all right? And the spread can mean a lot. For him, if he's willing to lose $2 just to sell his share very quickly. Because the market can change. Tesla can crash and burn in seconds, but Tesla could also go up in seconds. Let's say I know Tesla's about to go up. I'm going to go ahead and buy at the ask because Tesla's going to start shooting up. But I'm going to be mindful before I buy at the ask, what is the spread? Because if I buy a stock, and let's say the ask is $800, right? And the bid was $700. Well, now the market price is $750. If I want in, and I know Tesla is going to move $3, why am I going to buy the stock at $800 if it's only going to move from $750 to $753? It's kind of weird. I'm not going to spend $800 for the stock to go up $3. I'm spending $100 difference. And that's why this is very important. You got to know the spread because you can overpay for a stock. And when the stock goes up, you can cut on your profits. If you even make profits at all. Now, for high volume stocks, for stocks that have been trading very well, you'll never see a spread more than 2 cents, maybe even a cent. A cent, maybe even 2 cents, I'm sorry. The spread isn't that big. But if you go into smaller volume stocks where there's less people trading that stock, then you can see a higher spread. You see high spreads in options. We're going to get into that later, and this is basically what the whole course is about, but I'm spoon-feeding you information for right now. You see these spreads, and you have to be very wary of it. So enough about spreads, enough about bid, market price, and ask. I feel like you guys have a general concept now. Any questions, feel free to always ask me. But moving on from this, we need to know what volume is. I talked about this earlier. Volume is the amount of shares being bought and sold during the market. Basically, you want more volume because that means there's a lot more transactions going on with the shares. A lot of volume is good. A lot of volume could mean many things though. There could be a lot of buying volume. If the volume says 1 million, then you know there's 1 million shares being bought and sold. Now, 900,000 of those shares can be buying, and 100,000 of those could be selling, or 900,000 could be selling and 100,000 could be buying. There's a huge difference. You know what I mean? So you really don't know which way the volume's going, but volume is genuinely a good sign because you know there's movement in the market. If there's a lot of sellers, you buy puts. If there's a lot of buyers, you buy calls because it's gonna move the market. Volume always moves the market. Moving on from volume, you need to know about pre-market and after hours. I can't spell. Pre-market is the time before the market opens. The market opens at 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. And I think it's Pacific Standard Time. Don't quote me on that. I live in Texas, so it's Central Standard Time for me. That means the market opens at 8:30 in my time, right? Obviously, the market opens for the same time for everyone, but there's a time zone difference of an hour, right? Now, the market opens at 9:30. Pre-market opens at, I think it's 6. Depending on your broker, the pre-market is at 6. I know for Robinhood, it's at 6. For Webull, I think you can start trading as early as 4 in the morning. Depends on, your broker. And that is a whole thing that I'm going to get into later about some brokerages you can use and that I recommend. But that is pre-market. Pre-market is trading that can happen before the market opens, and it's very important. Sometimes pre-market trading can show us if a stock's going to be moving today, right? Because suddenly, if someone's buying 1 million shares in pre-market, they're expecting a movement during the actual open hours. Now, there's a thing called after hours. The market closes at 3. No, the market closes at 4 p.m., right? For me, it's at 3. So the market closes at 4 p.m., but after hours is 4 p.m. to, once again, I think it's 6 p.m. And some brokerages let you go to like 9, I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I only trade with Robinhood and Webull. So don't quote me on that. But basically, after hours trading can show you how tomorrow is going to look. If suddenly, the stock starts rising after hours, then there's a lot of news going on, there's a lot of plays going on, and tomorrow morning you're probably looking at a really good market. Now, it's very important to understand pre-market and after hours because there's another concept you guys need to learn called earnings. Earnings are when a stock or a company publish their revenue. Basically, when a company says how much money they make or how much money they've spent, how much money they've lost, earnings reports are always a big play. That's how I started making my money, on earnings reports. The stock can move a lot of percent just because of an earnings report. I've seen stocks move 600% because a company published really, really good earnings and they're making lots and lots of money, right? If a company's making money, obviously everyone wants to be in on the stock. So that's basically it. Earnings is when a company publishes their revenue. Now, earnings usually come out either pre-market, right? So before 8:30 or 9:30, or it comes out after hours. So when the market closes at 4 p.m., earnings come out and then the stock can move after hours, right? And in between pre-market and after hours, you can still buy and sell shares. It's just like the regular normal market day, with the exception you can only trade whole shares, you cannot trade options, and there's usually a lot less volume in the shares, right? So that means if the company has really good earnings, obviously there's going to be a lot of volume in the after hours. But if you go into a different side of the market, to a company that's not having earnings, they're not going to have that same amount of volume. There's usually a lot less volume in after hours trading. However, it can still move, right? And sometimes you see a spread between the bid and the ask. People like to scalp on share prices during after hours. But I digress. You'll start seeing more of that when I start trading. And when you start trading, I'm going to post videos of me trading. Kind of keep you guys updated. But that's basically how things work. Now you know about pre-market, volume, earnings, bid, ask, shares, stocks, sectors, ETFs. You also need to know about bull markets and bear markets. My spelling is atrocious. I've said it a million times already, and you guys are probably getting annoyed. Bull markets, you guys ever heard of the phrase bull run? That means the market does good. It's going up. The market is going up. It's running. Now there's a bear market, right? And so that means the market's going down. Now there's people who like to analyze stocks and they publish their reports. And so sometimes if you're on Robinhood, you'll see those little news articles. It's like bears say the market's going down. Well, obviously bears are going to say the market's going down. Bulls say it's a bull market. It's going to run any day now, right? So bulls are a group of people, or sometimes it's used as a term to define the market, to say the market is going to go up or this stock is going to go up. It's a very loose yet tight term that is used, right? Same with bear. It's, inverse to each other. There's a lot of competition right now. People say we're in a bear market. It means the market's going down. However, as of recording this, the past couple days have been really, really good. The market has been going up. But there's reasons to that. So just know there's a lot of factors that go into a stock. There's a lot of things that you have to be aware about. There's a lot of terminology you have to be aware about, right? So basically, this is the basics. This is the absolute basic stuff that you guys should be knowing. And I really can't think of anything else that you guys should know. If more comes out, I definitely want to inform you. But get this down and know this terminology like the back of your hand. Because when you guys start learning charts, it's going to get a hell of a lot harder. I'm kind of getting you into the kiddie pool, and then I'm throwing you into the deep end. That's how this transition is going to feel. And it's going to suck, and it's going to feel like you're never going to understand the concept. But you'll get there, trust me. Please understand what you know. There's a lot of resources to Google more terminology. YouTube is still a wonderful tool. I know there can be a lot of misinformation out there, so be very wary of that. Watch multiple videos. Google Finance, Yahoo Finance is a great website. I recommend it for anyone willing to learn anything about stocks. It's always a great website. There's a lot of terminology on there. Just click on it. If you don't understand something, Google it. I'm going to leave the video off here. Watch it multiple times if you have to. But this is basically how everything's going to go. Understand the terminology, and you're going to be ready for the next step. You guys are on your way, and I have so much faith in you. If you got this far, you're gonna make it. Trust me. My goal is to have you guys make it in this market, and you're on your way. All right. I'm gonna say bye-bye. I'm gonna end the video here. Good luck.